Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Live Penguin TV. My name is Megan, and I'm going to be talking to you tonight about all things penguin as we watch the world's smallest species of penguin crossing the beach up to their burrows here tonight. And tonight I am joined by Ranger Jordan. So, Jordan, come on in, tell us what you'll be doing tonight.
Hi everyone, I'm going to be looking at all of your wonderful questions on YouTube tonight and finding a few tricky questions to throw to Megan throughout the stream. So at any point throughout the night, if you've got a burning question that you would love answered, post it on YouTube and I'll do my best to throw it to Megan throughout the stream. Have a good night, guys.
Thanks, Jordan. So Jordan will, as she said, be looking through the questions and comments on YouTube. So put through all your questions on YouTube. Also put through your questions on Facebook. We will be getting a Penguin Ranger to go through the Facebook questions throughout the next 24 hours to answer all of those. We aren't able to do that on YouTube, so that's why Jordan will be looking at the YouTube comments tonight and throwing those questions through to me live. Now, it's the first time Jordan has actually been checking the questions, so send her through plenty so she has lots of options. And if you've watched before, you know that Jordan usually takes the lead and she loves to talk. So I'm sure she'll appreciate lots of questions so that she can jump in and have plenty to say. It's probably difficult for her right now being quiet. But if we don't answer your question tonight, do tune in tomorrow. The next night we'll be here every night, and I hope that we will answer your questions eventually. We have lots of penguin facts to get through, so we'll try and give you different ones each night if we can. Now, we are joining you tonight from Phillip Island in Victoria, Australia. And the lands that we are joining you from are the traditional lands of the Bunurong. So the Bunurong were the first people here on Phillip Island, which they called Milau. And they've been coming here for thousands of years. And I would like to acknowledge the Bunurong and their elders, past, present, and emerging as the traditional custodians of the land that we are on. We're very lucky that they have looked after this country so well. And now that we are able to look after about 20% of Phillip Island through Phillip Island Nature Parks. Now, I've already seen a lot of people in the comments letting us know where they're joining us from, and also a lot of people letting us know who the traditional custodians of the land they're joining us from are. So if you do know the traditional custodians of your land, that would be great. Put those through in the comments. If you don't know, that's a great thing to look up and let us know what you find out. But as I said, we are joining you from Phillip Island, and we are Phillip Island Nature Park. So we do look after our beautiful penguin parade here on Phillip Island, as well as the entire penguin colony, which extends for another about 3 kilometres up the peninsula, and there we look after about 32,000 little penguins. We also have our koala conservation reserve, where we are currently caring for some koalas who were affected by our recent bushfires here in Victoria. We also look after Churchill Island Heritage Farm, the Nobby Centre, many of our beautiful beaches, wetlands and woodlands, including the entire southern coast of Phillip Island. And you can see just a little bit of this beautiful land, this beautiful country that we are lucky enough to be able to manage and look after here at Phillip Island Nature Parks. So if you do want to help us do the work we do here, we are a non-for-profit organisation, and we do work through education, research and conservation to help protect these wild places and the animals that live in them. So you can help us out by coming and visiting us when the time is right. So if you do live in regional Victoria, you are able to come here to the Penguin Parade, the Koala Reserve and Churchill Island. If you do live in Melbourne or at other places around Australia or around the world, we do hope to be able to welcome you back as soon as possible. But in the meantime, if you do want to help us out, you can donate to the Penguin Foundation. You can adopt a penguin, become a penguin pal. You can get one of these cute little stuffed penguins wearing a jumper to call your own, and you can even name a penguin. You don't get to take one home. It is a symbolic adoption, but it's pretty special knowing that you have helped us to look after our little penguins here on Phillip Island. So what we might do now, because it's starting to get a little bit dark, is we'll have a bit of a look out in the ocean and try and see where our penguins are. Now, we have already had a couple of cheeky penguins who came up out of the water onto the beach, had a bit of a look around and realised that it was a bit too light. Now, it wasn't quite time to come out of the water yet, so we will zoom in a little bit on the water and see if we can spot them or some other penguins getting ready to come onto land. So what these penguins are doing right now in the water, and what they've been doing probably for the last couple of hours, is they've been out there forming groups that we call rafts. Now, a group of penguins in the water is called a raft because they group so closely together, they look kind of like a black line or a little raft sitting on the surface. So it's pretty calm out there, but I can't seem to spot any rafts. I might zoom in a little bit more. If you're watching on a bigger screen than me, if you're watching on your big TV, you might be able to see them a little bit better. So let us know if you do see the rafts before I can spot them. I'll have a bit of a scroll across. And those penguins out there, they'll be grouping up together and they'll be talking to each other. They'll be going, huck, 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 huck. Thanks, Jordan. So if you've seen that in the comments, it's not just people, I don't know what you might think if you haven't tuned in before and you see everyone saying huck, but that is the noise the penguins make out in the water, talking to each other, saying, hi, hey guys, are we ready to go in? Is it safe yet? Are we ready to cross the beach? And that's how they find each other and form those groups. So that's what you might be hearing if you were out there on the beach waiting for the penguins to arrive. And sometimes you might even hear them before you'll spot them, especially because I can't quite spot them just yet.
Now, Megan, we've had a few people in the comments saying they thought they might have seen a raft a little bit to the left, so maybe kind of where you are now. So good work, all you water watchers out there, for keeping an eye on those rafts. It's very tricky to see the penguins on this small screen, so let us know if you can see them.
Okay, thank you, Jordan. Thank you, everyone, for letting us know that you have seen some. I'll scroll back over and see if I can find them. So I'm very impressed. You guys must be watching night after night to be able to spot a raft so quickly. I know it took me a long time after I started working here to be able to spot these rafts. But once you know how to do it, you know what you're looking for. You can get quite good at it. People are often amazed when the rangers can point out a raft far, far out in the distance that you wouldn't even realise is there if you didn't know what you were looking for. I think I might have seen it. Is that it right there? Just in front of the rocks. I'll zoom in a little bit. There it is. Good spotting, guys. I almost didn't see it. Let's zoom in a little bit more. Let's see how far we can go. There we go. So what we can see right here is a bunch of little penguin heads bobbing on the surface of the water. So I'll go out a little bit, getting a bit fuzzy. There we go. And these penguins, they are hucking away, talking to each other, and they're looking up at the horizon. So they're looking up at where our cameras are, and they're waiting for it to get a little bit darker before they come out of the water. Because coming out of the water and crossing the beach, heading back to their burrows is the most scary part of a penguin's day. So they want to make sure it's nice and dark before they cross, because they're on the lookout for any big birds of prey. So things like Pacific gulls, sea eagles, swamp harriers, anything that might want to make a little penguin into a snack, the penguins are very wary of. But those guys, as it gets dark, will start to go to roost for the night, and it'll be too dark for them to hunt. So that's when the penguins are safest, and that's why they're waiting until it's dark to cross the beach. And there are two rafts now. Another one's just appeared in front of that one there. I think Jordan has something to tell me.
I think there might be some penguins at the water's edge at Penguins Plus, everyone.
Ooh,
so we'll go have a look now.
Okay, let me zoom out and see if there's some penguins at the water's edge. And you guys might have just seen, as I was zooming out there as well, there were, oh, there they are. They've snuck up on us. There were some other birds flying around, those dark birds that were flying past the camera, and those were some of our short-tailed shearwaters. You might have seen those earlier in the week. They've just joined us from all the way in Alaska. I almost said Antarctica. They've come all the way from Alaska. So they've flown here to Phillip Island to start renovating their burrows, and very soon these short-tailed shearwaters will be starting to lay their eggs and raise their chicks here on Phillip Island before they have to make that journey back up north, back to Alaska. And that's a very long journey. So you might see a few shearwaters flying around tonight, but we do have our little penguins here crossing the beach already. These guys are in a bit of a hurry. So I was saying that they're quite scared, quite nervous, especially tonight. We have quite a low tide. So usually the penguins will wait for a little bit before they cross, but these guys are in a hurry. They're not waiting for anyone. And right now we do have our penguin counter, which tonight is Ranger Heather, who you guys would have seen on the live stream before. And Heather is furiously trying to count these penguins as they cross the beach. And she'll be waiting till they get to about the halfway mark on the beach. And it looks like they're about halfway, so it's time for her to start counting these penguins, because now we'll be pretty sure that they're not going to run back to the water if they get a fright. If they get a fright, they're more likely to continue going up onto land. But they don't look too bothered, these little penguins, crossing through the rocks. They do have added camouflage. So these guys, if they get a fright, they can duck down into the rocks. They can pretend to be a rock. They're a lot better camouflage while they're crossing over these rocks, but it does make it a little bit harder for Heather to count them. So send all your love to Heather, and if you want to have a go at counting them, you can have a go. And I think Jordan has something to say. Oh, you have a question?
Yes, there have been a lot of people in the comments asking how many penguins crossed the beach last night. So I've seen a few people have some predictions already, but the magic number last night was 2,440 penguins.
Wow, 2,440 penguins last night. So did anyone guess that? Anyone think they counted that many? Anyone try and have their own penguin lotto at home? See which family member gets the closest. Maybe you'll win some chocolate or something. And let us know tonight as well, towards the end of the night, how many penguins you think have crossed. But we will be counting these penguins for 50 minutes, so that's 50, just under an hour. So we won't get to see all of the penguins come home tonight. Most of them do come in that first 20-30 minutes, but they do keep coming in for up to 3 hours after the first group crosses. So we don't by any means get to see all the penguins. We don't even get to see the end of the penguin count. So if you do try and count them tonight, add a few extra on and see if you can get close to that final number. Here we go. These guys are coming out of the rocks now. Might make it a little bit easier to count them. And while we're counting these guys, I would just like to give a quick shout out from Tyler from Wonthaggi, who has been watching the Penguin live stream every night, and we were very excited to see Tyler here at the Penguin Parade last night here on Penguins Plus, watching these little guys come home. So we're hoping that all you water watchers who tune in night after night very soon will be able to join us here again, just like Tyler was lucky enough to do. I'll zoom out a little bit. It looks like these guys are almost up onto the rocks. They've almost finished their dangerous dash. They're going to run that last little bit up onto the rocks. And once they get up onto these rocks, that's when they feel quite safe. So they might stop. They might have a little bit of a rest and catch their breath. I know it looks like it might be very hard for these penguins climbing over these rocks, because they do only have little legs and they do make that waddle. If you haven't tried waddling yourself, I do recommend you give it a go. Not just the kids, the adults as well. And they do waddle because they have fused knees. So penguins can't bend their knees to walk like we do, and they're quite high up in their body. So if you wouldn't want to try and walk like a penguin, just lock your knees in and try and waddle across the lounge room or wherever you're watching us from, and you'll see how difficult it might be for these little penguins. But they're actually quite good little climbers. Climbing over these rocks, they can jump about their own body height if they have to, so it doesn't challenge them too much. And I think we might have a number from Jordan.
We sure do. So we've been getting a few guesses in the comments as to how many penguins were in this waddle crossing the beach. It was 39 penguins.
Wow, so 39 penguins in that first group. I didn't think it was that many, but I don't really count the penguins very often. So 39 penguins in that first group.
Matt Stone guessed 38.
Well done, Matt Stone. You guessed 38. Very close. Only one penguin off. Maybe Heather counted one extra one. I don't know. Maybe you missed one. That's some very good counting. Maybe you can come and work for us one day. And here they go into the pool. We do still have our little river running through here because we have had lots of rain. And we get to see the penguins swimming on land, which is something quite special that we usually don't get to see this time of year. We've just been lucky. We've had lots and lots of rain. So these penguins will quite happily swim through this little pond. They don't have to worry about that difficult waddle through this little section, they can just swim part of their way home. And we do get to see how much better they are at swimming than they are at waddling, because they are really made to be out at sea. They're shaped like little torpedoes. They have really strong little flippers, and I'll just go over to the highway camera for us. There we go. So that they can swim really fast and cut through the water. But when they are on land, they're not quite as speedy. They're a little bit slower. They're a little bit more, dare I say, uncoordinated and a bit more vulnerable. But they are moving quite fast tonight, I must say. We often get people asking how fast the penguins actually move on land, which is something that intrigues us because we don't actually know the answer to that. I think Jordan has had to chase a penguin before when it has been sick or injured, and she struggled to keep up with it. So they can go quite fast if they need to. That is for sure. I'll zoom back over to the beach. Oh, looks like we've just had some more penguins arrive on the rocks, actually. We might watch these little guys go through the puddle. So I was saying how these guys are quite good at climbing over the rocks and climbing up steep hills. So you'll see some of our penguins tonight, they do go up that hill next to Penguins Plus here. We'll follow these guys along and see if any go up the hill. But not all of our penguins have it this easy. So we do have our colony of 32,000 penguins, and only about 3,000 or 4,000 penguins use this pathway across our beach here. A lot of them coming along the peninsula, which is steep cliffs, and they make their little pathways up these cliffs. So they have some very dangerous, precarious little pathways that they have to walk up. But this beach is very popular because it is a nice, easy access point. And there are penguin colonies all along the southern coast of Australia, of our little penguins, and in New Zealand, and they're all quite different. So we actually have a colony of penguins that some of you might know about that live near the city in Melbourne, in St Kilda, and they actually live on a man-made breakwater, which is a wall of rocks, basically. I'll go over to the highway cameras, some more penguins coming past there. So those penguins, that breakwater was built for the Olympics here in Melbourne, and once that was kind of not being used as much, the penguins decided that was a nice place to call home, and we actually believe it was some of our penguins from here in Phillip Island who were foraging around the corner there in Port Phillip Bay, came up on this breakwater and thought, oh, this is a nice place to make our home. We do have a small number, we think about 6% of our penguins that do actually go elsewhere to breed, and that's how we get those new colonies. So we do have a small colony, it's about 12 or 15,000 penguins now, that actually lives near the city of Melbourne. So it's quite spectacular. They're quite well adapted, and those guys just nest in between rocks. So they don't have it quite as easy as our little penguins here on Phillip Island. Oh, and there's more coming past the highway. I'll see if I can zoom to them in time. And while we're watching these little guys, I might see if Jordan has a question for us. I know she had a question earlier that she wouldn't let me see, so I'm a little bit scared. But what's your question, Jordan?
Megan, I'm going to ask you that question just a little bit later. I've got the suspense coming. But Amanda would like to know, does the crowd have to stay quiet here at the Penguin Parade, and how do we help protect people and keep them safe? Sorry, how do we protect penguins and keep them safe from people here at the Penguin Parade?
Oh, that's a great question, Amanda. So we do protect the penguins from the people and the people from the penguins. So we do ask people not to be too loud, because the penguins can get a little bit frightened if they do hear a loud sudden noise. But generally these penguins here are quite used to people. So people have been coming here for their entire lives. So they are very used to us. They're very used to seeing us and hearing us. We think that they might have actually been a little bit confused when we didn't have people for a while there, because that was just their daily habit. That's what they were used to. And there's quite a few more coming across the beach. I like to think that as they're walking past, the penguins just think of us as being big, funny-looking penguins that are here night after night, or maybe even that the penguins are coming here to see the people parade. But they're not really too bothered by us. The only things that we do need to do to ensure our penguin safety here at the Penguin Parade is make sure that people aren't taking photos. So we don't allow photography, because if an accidental flash does go off, that can hurt the penguins' eyes and give them quite a fright and disorient them. So we do ask that people, visitors at the Penguin Parade, don't take any photos to help protect our little penguins. We do have a lot of barriers in place, and mostly raised boardwalks so that the penguins can walk underneath those boardwalks. They're not impeded by people being in their way. They can get to where they need to go. And then also people aren't coming into too close a contact with the penguins, so it doesn't stress them out. And there's no risk of anyone being bitten by a penguin, because trust me, that does hurt. 2 nights ago, a penguin bit me on the stomach when I had to handle it. And now it is. I have a big bite about this long on my stomach, so trust me, you don't want to be bitten by a penguin. So we will protect you from getting bitten, but also protecting our little penguins by ensuring that people are kept separate from the penguins, that we don't allow photography, and all of our lighting that we have here as well. So you'll see that the penguins are lit up, but sometimes you might notice a bit of an orange glow in their white bellies, because all of the lighting we have for our guests to view the penguins has a red filter on it. And because penguins spend most of their time in the water where red light's filtered out, they don't see red light as well as they see blue or white light. So we have all these red light filters so that we're lessening our impact on the penguins by coming to watch them, and they can't see those lights as clearly as we can. So it helps us watch them, and it makes it a little bit easier, a little bit less disturbance on our penguins. But definitely if you were to go to a different part of the penguin colony, their reaction to people is quite different. So they are quite used to us, but they definitely never get used to being handled by people. So they are completely wild animals still. As much as they tolerate us, if you were to go out and pick one up, like I said, they would bite you, they would pick up a fight. We have a study site that myself and Jordan check 3 times a week. Every time we just peek in a burrow to even look at a penguin. Oh, sorry, I'm going to stop talking because there's a water rat that just ran past the penguins. I'll quickly try and zoom in on it. There he is in amongst the penguins. I do prefer to call these guys ricali rather than water rat because they get a bit of a bad rap. I think they're really adorable little native animal here in Australia, and they have a cute little puffy cheeks and that little white bit on the end of their tail. So I'm going to try and follow this little ricali. As the penguins are attacking him, the poor little guy, he doesn't know what he's got himself into. But we do have quite a few water rats that live around the coast here in Victoria, and he's quite scared of these penguins. The penguins are very formidable opponents. I know that during the week, Jordan and I have been doing a bit of night work. We have to go out in the colony at night because we've been putting some trackers on some penguins, and penguins that have only been coming at night. So I've been having to walk through the colony at night to grab a couple of penguins to take those trackers off, and the penguins will just attack my legs. So they're not too frightened. There are some that are a bit more aggressive than others, but they will attack a ricali. They will attack a person. I'm sure you all know very well that the penguins are happy to take on a goose. I've seen standoff with wallabies and penguins. I have once seen a wallaby hop on a penguin by accident, and the penguin was fine. But they'll pick a fight against anyone and anyone that they can. We have even seen some little bandicoots. We do have eastern barred bandicoots here at the penguin parade, and the penguins will have a go at a bandicoot as well. And this little ricali is just stuck amongst them. He doesn't look like he has anywhere to go. Poor little guy. He probably just wants to get down to the beach to look for some crustaceans to have a munch on, and he's got stuck in penguin peak hour traffic. Oh, he's gone into the bushes. Okay, I'll zoom out a little bit now. We can go back to looking at the penguins. And it looks like we have oodles of penguins coming in. I'll come back out because it looks like a big raft is just coming across the beach. Oh, wow, there's heaps. I think Jordan has something to tell me.
Yeah, so you were just talking before, Megan, about how you've been doing some tracking on the penguins.
Mm-hmm.
So Michael Morgan would love to hear the results of the tracking, and do you have the results back, or when do you expect to have them?
Oh, that's a great question, Michael. So we have been talking quite a bit about that penguin tracking during the week because it's something very exciting that Jordan and I have been able to do. We have got the data back off those little loggers. So if you might have seen myself or Ross with the little loggers on some of our previous streams. They do look like a little eraser about this big. These little GPS trackers that we put on a penguin's back, like a little backpack, to see where they're going. But we do have to collect those back off the penguins to get the data. So we collected 7 on Tuesday night. We got 2 back on Wednesday night, and I think we got our very last one back last night. So we do have all 10 back that we wanted, and I have downloaded the data from the loggers and I've had a quick look at it. We haven't done any analysis yet, so I can't tell you too much, but I can tell you it doesn't look like the penguins are going far. They're pretty much just going south, so straight out to the ocean that you can see from our beach here. They might be going a little bit around to Cape Woolamai, which you can see out in the distance, but they're not traveling far at all. Food is very, very close. Those 7 penguins we got the day after we put the trackers on them, so they only were gone for 1 day and they came straight back. We only had, I think, 2 penguins that left for more than 1 day, which just means that the food out there is incredible. It's very close. Our penguins aren't going far at all. And once we do have a little bit more information, once we're able to analyze that data, we might be able to tell you a little bit more about those penguins, where those penguins are going. I'll just go over to the highway camera because we have a constant stream of penguins going past. Yes, Jordan.
Sorry, lots and lots of questions coming through. Absolutely loving it. So you said that the penguins aren't going out too far. We say they've got chicks in their burrow. What does that mean for the breeding season? And Trent particularly would like to know the answer.
That's a great question, Trent. Let's see, I told you guys Jordan would love to ask questions. She doesn't like to be quiet for long, so it's great. But very good question, Trent. So, sorry. I'm too busy making fun of Jordan.
Don't worry, I'm going to make fun of you tomorrow, a little bit later tonight, Megan. So because they're not going too far away, is this a good sign? Is it a good breeding season?
Yes. So it is a really good sign. So I'll go back over and see if we might actually be able to see some penguin chicks. Because the closer the food is, the more often the parents can come in, the more often they can feed their chicks, because they won't just go out for 1 day and come back with whatever they get. They will stay out as long as it takes to get as much food as they need, which is usually about 1/3 of their own body weight. So they can bring back about 200, 300 grams, and these little guys only weigh about 1 kilo. So they're bringing back lots and lots of food, but they will only bring back roughly that amount. So if it takes longer to get that amount of food, they'll just be out for longer. So if they're coming in every day, as we've seen a lot of them are, with 200, 300 grams of food for their chicks, that's just incredible. And the chicks are doing really well. So we do, that study site that I mentioned that Jordan and I check, we do go out and weigh those chicks to see how they're going, to track their growth and their progress. And they're doing incredibly well. So most of them right now are actually bigger than their parents. And there might be a parent coming back to feed a chick just here. I'll zoom in. So we've had some chicks that weigh in about 1,300 grams. Oh, and it is a parent feeding a chick. What fantastic timing for us to scroll over at that point. So that's exactly what we're talking about, where these chicks are getting fed almost every night by both their parents most nights as well. And this little guy we can see here is an only child. So it looks like there's only 1 chick. Usually you will get 2 penguin chicks in a burrow. So this penguin's been very spoiled, and it shows. You can see that little penguin chick. So it's actually very hard to tell that this little guy is a chick, but you can see those little brown fluffy feathers kind of around his head and his tail there. Oh, and he just did a big projectile poo. So if you've watched Jordan before, you know she loves to talk about poo, and quite often when we are weighing those chicks, we have to take them out of their burrows, and that is the projectile poo that goes on us. So they do.
Megan.
Yes, Jordan.
Remember that time a chick pooed down your vest?
I do. Thank you, Jordan. Yeah, one time I did have to take a little penguin chick out of a burrow that was particularly hard to get to. I had to do a bit of a commando crawl under a tree, and I took the chick out very carefully. I was holding it against myself to put it in the bag to weigh it, and while I did that, the chick pooed right down my vest. So if you can imagine that projectile poo going on you, it's not very nice, and it is very fishy in smell. So it's not the most pleasant of thing. We're quite used to it, but these chicks get fed so much food that penguin poo is pretty much inevitable when you're out there handling chicks. We do only have 5 minutes left. Gosh, that went fast. So while we're looking at this cute little chick, quite incredible, we got to see it getting fed and pooping. And the parents do feed the chicks by regurgitating. So that's what we were seeing. The parent was bringing back that food and regurgitating it straight into the baby's mouth, which might sound a bit yucky to us, but the little penguin chicks absolutely love it. They'll be standing outside their burrow, chirping away, going, chirp, 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 Mum, Dad, come home and feed me. I'm very hungry. I want my dinner. Even when they're nice and chunky like this little guy, they'll be calling out for Mum and Dad. They're never full, these little penguin chicks. So while we're watching them, we might have one more question from Jordan.
Can most certainly do that. So we've got a question about penguins sleeping. Do they sleep standing up? Do they sleep all night like us? How do they sleep?
That is a fantastic question, Jordan. How do penguins sleep? So tonight, you might be thinking that they're coming home after a long day of fishing. They're going to go back to their burrows and have a nap. But that's actually not the case. So these little penguins, they're not nocturnal or diurnal, as you might think of most animals being. There's something, I'm going to use a fancy word and say that they're polyphasic, which means that they are most active during the day when they're out at sea, and they're most active on land at night. So they don't have any set time where they actually sleep. They'll just sleep whenever they're tired, and they'll do that whether they're out at sea or on land. When they're out at sea, they'll float on the surface of the water, and they're very well camouflaged when they're floating there, just having a little 4-minute nap. So the penguins don't have to come in and have a 8-hour sleep like we would need to. They just have a little 4-minute sleep, and then they keep fishing. And they might do the same when they're here on land. So I might zoom out and see if I can see maybe a sleepy penguin. We'll come back over. There's lots of penguins over here. None of them are looking particularly sleepy right now. This is the exciting part of the night. But sometimes you will see a penguin along the penguin highway. Some of them might have to walk up to 2 kilometres to get home. So if they get a little bit tired, they might just lie down on the pathway and have a little nap. So sometimes people get really concerned. They see a penguin lying there, it's not moving, and they think that something's wrong with it, and it's just a penguin having a little power nap on its way home. So just a little 4-minute sleep is all that these little guys need, maybe every few hours or so, depending on how active they are. So that's really handy as a penguin. I really wish that I could do that. And we'll go back over to the highway camera because we have lots and lots of penguins still coming past there. And those little micro naps are what kind of allows those penguins to spend so long out at sea, because I did say that most of them at the moment, they are feeding chicks, so they're only spending maybe a day or a couple days out at sea. But in the middle of winter, when they're not breeding, they can be spending weeks or even months out on the ocean. So it's really important that they can sleep out there and that they don't have to come onto land to sleep. So those little floating power naps are really important for these little guys. And they are really safe even when they're napping, because you can see as they're walking past us, all of their front is white and all of their back is blue. So when they're floating on there, they're perfectly camouflaged. So if you were to look down at them, their blue back blends in against the ocean. And if you were looking up from below, their little white belly blends in with the sky. So they're really quite safe when they're out on the water from any birds soaring overhead or any predators that might be under the water looking for something to snack on. And we'll go back to the beach and we'll see, we might zoom out and try and see one more group crossing the beach before we have to go. Oh, there's so many penguins still coming in. It's a little bit darker now. I'll zoom in and we'll... Wow, looks like some good numbers tonight. So there's lots of penguins coming up onto the rocks, having a bit of a rest. It almost looks like we have a little bit of a penguin traffic jam on the rocks. So they're all just having a little rest, not necessarily a little nap, just catching their breath, preening their feathers, making sure they're looking good before they head home and see their partners or see their chicks, bringing back all of that food. And the parents do bring back, as I said, lots of food for their chicks. So Dr. Andre, our marine biologist here and penguin expert, you might have seen him on the stream a couple of weeks ago, and he likened our penguins to walking fridges, because what these adults are doing at the moment is they are just carrying food around from the ocean to land to bring it back to their chicks. They're only digesting a very small amount of that. They're actually, for the most part, changing the acidity levels in their stomach so that they're reducing the amount they digest. So they're bringing back plenty and plenty of food for these chicks. So these guys have been very, very busy. They're not getting much of a benefit from all this food they're catching. They're working really, really hard to raise those chicks, and it can take about 14 kilograms worth of fish over 8 to 10 weeks to raise a penguin chick to fledging. Oh, and we have a shell gritter up on the highway camera. So that, I'll see if I'm quick enough to switch cameras and see her walking past. So this penguin walking the wrong way is actually a female penguin who's getting ready to lay eggs. So she's walking down to the beach. She would have already been up here on land. She's going to eat some little pieces of seashell to get some extra calcium, a little bit like a pregnancy supplement, to form the shell of her egg to make them stronger and supplement some of the calcium she's probably already used. So she's on a mission. She's already gone past to get those seashells. I'll go back to the main camera now because it looks like we are at the end of our penguin viewing time now. So I hope you've all enjoyed watching our little penguins on their dangerous dash across the beach, making their way home back to their burrows. And I was very excited to see a ricali. I don't think we've seen one of them on the live stream before. And again, to see a little penguin chick being fed, which is always very, very special. And if you do want to help us look after our little penguins here on Phillip Island, you can help out by coming and visiting us when it is safe to do so. We do hope to welcome you all back as soon as possible. In the meantime, if you have any extra cash to spare, you can donate to the Penguin Foundation, adopt a penguin, become a penguin pal, and we hope to see you guys back here at the Penguin Parade very, very soon. So I want to thank you all again so much for tuning in tonight. Jordan, do you want to come in and say goodbye to everyone? We might send you out with our huck.
Well, Mel Kay from Facebook would like to see a huck off between the both of us. Ooh. So I think we'll definitely be able to do that while we sign off. But we've got lots of people guessing the amount of penguins that have been coming in tonight. So tune in tomorrow night and we'll give you an update. But for now, good night and huck.